All right.
What a familiar voice. It's been too long, man.
Is it cold up there in Wisconsin?
Boy, it's cold. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is Blacktop Banter, and this is episode 45. So I have a longtime friend today that I'm going to be collaborating with. I have a podcast. He has a podcast. We were both in a mastermind group that I mentioned in a previous podcast, and things have changed over the years between us two. Wouldn't you say, Paul?
Absolutely. It's good to see you again, friend.
It's pretty exciting to see what's happening on my end, what's happening on your end, and what's happening with all of our peers on their ends too. So it's very exciting. But my audience hasn't met you before. I'm sure they've seen a couple posts about your book that I've been reading. But you introduce yourself to my audience, if you would, Paul.
Yes. What's up, guys? I am Paul Jamison. I'm author of the book Cut That Grass and Make That Cash. And I host a podcast for lawn care and landscape professionals where we talk about how we can take our businesses to the next level. And I think this is going to be episode 346, Marv, because I'm going to share your episode on my show as well. So we've been doing it for a while, and it's a lot of fun. So I enjoy getting to talk with folks cross-pollinating from other industries like yours. So thank you for having me on your show.
Dude, no worries. I'm glad to be there. You know, it's your and I friendship. When we first started doing this thing, we knew we kind of wanted to do stuff like this. We wanted to, do different things, podcasts, writing. I write articles now for Pavement magazine. You're writing books. We both do podcasts together. We both did social media and stuff, push out. And I own a business here, Wisco LLC, and then we're starting another one in Dubuque. And of course the podcast and everything else. And it's just been a wild ride to see our businesses grow, us learn. Because when I think back, especially since reading your book lately, we were like, it's funny that it's called the green industry because we were greenhorns bad, man. Because I can remember those times that are in your book of us, communicating, and to see how much we've grown business wise and media wise, it's been crazy, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So what about, let's talk about your start in landscape industry.
Yeah, I needed money, Marv. And so I had a 97 Honda Accord, and it wasn't even mine. I was renting it for $150 a month from a friend. And there was a mower in the garage that was raggedy Walmart mower, didn't even have self-propel. When people say, "Oh, is that a push mower?" Like literally got to push the thing. It doesn't even assist you. But the cool thing about it was you could spin the things on the side, and then the handles would fold up. So you could actually like sandwich it together and put it, it condenses, and it would fit into the 97 Honda Accord. So my buddy, Dave, let me, and I write about this in the book. He let me use his weed eater. So I put the weed eater out, it would stick out the window a little bit, and then I diagonal it back into the back seat. And then I had a little handheld blower that I could fit in the trunk or the back seat. So I was in business. I had a mower, a weed eater, and a blower. And I just took a bunch of little business cards and raggedy business cards, man. My setup was not professional. Okay. It was not, I have a spirit of excellence behind everything I do now, but back then it was glued together, duct taped together. I just walk around the neighborhood and put the cards on their mailbox, or if they're driving home, I give them to them. And I just tried to beg people, "Hey, can I cut your grass for $25?"
Yeah.
And people said yes. And the rest is history, as they say. I mean, you've seen me back in the day down on the field at the Falcons games, and you're like, what is this? Photoshopped or what?
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, back when that was like 2016 when we really started, getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And, all the way back then I was working for high profile folks, and then it just kept getting better and better and better because the high profile customers, like the head coach of the Falcons and the captain of the Falcons, well, they're friends with the other coaches and players. And so I've graduated from the 97 Accord days and work in a nicer area, higher profile clients. And then in 2018, I started this podcast, the Green Industry Podcast, and this thing has taken off beyond my wildest dreams. So living the dream, Marv.
It's wild, isn't it? Sometimes you keep knocking at the ceiling, and then finally all of a sudden it breaks through and you're like, oh, all right, that's pretty interesting. The one of my favorite parts about the story is in the book when you end up having to give the Accord back and it smells like gas so bad. you know, like, cause you had all the motors in there and everything.
Yeah. And she joked because I gave it to a family and it was like, yeah, we'll help you out, you know, $150 a month. You can rent our Honda Accord, which is a great deal. So I would put the gas can. I had 2 gas cans. I had a 1-gallon gas can for the lawnmower with
Yeah.
fuel.
Yep.
And then I had a another gallon gas can for the 50-to-1 mix ratio. And sometimes they, you know, they'd spill over and I'd pick it back up. And I just was used to smelling like gas.
Yeah.
So then they called me one day and there's something that happened in the family. Like, hey, we had an emergency. We need the car back. I'm thinking, well, at least I'll finish out the month. And they're like, can you drop it off Saturday? I was like, what? I was like, okay. Like it wasn't like an option, like bring us our car back, you know? So I bring the car back and drop it off at their house. And my buddy takes me home and I get a voicemail. This lady chews me out. What in the world? The car smells like gas. What did you run a lawn care company out of the car? Like she was joking. And I was like, actually, I did.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, that would be correct.
Classic. That's classic.
So then I had to come back, Marv. I took it to one of those gas stations or car washes that have like a vacuum air. I buy all the bells and whistles and I'm scrubbing this thing.
Yeah.
I turn it back in and I just cut my losses. She says still smelled like gas. And you know, I don't think she's talked to me since. So,
well, the good thing is in Atlanta, you can roll the windows down, you know, in the wintertime and whatnot. So you don't got to be sitting in there with the gas smell too strong. But it's funny, that's a great story. And I think that in the book, which we can get on Amazon, correct?
Absolutely. Greenindustrypodcast.com is where we feature it.
Yep.
But you can get anywhere. It's on Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble. It's everywhere. But I like people to go to my website,
of course,
greenindustrypodcast.com and get it at the home base there. But yes, it's where finer books are sold, Marv.
Oh, I like it. And it was super exciting to see the cover when I was checking out and getting the book and getting it sent to me. So it was very exciting. It was really well put together. I'm going to pick your brain about it at some point because I imagine at some point I'm going to end up having to do that. And I'm very excited because, you know, we went from people that were behind the curve to being in front of the curve, and to see you push through there and go ahead and make a book is just exciting because I loved your story when we were doing it and following along way back in the day. So what are we up to now, Paul? Because, you know, I try to keep current with you, but you're doing a lot of stuff. The podcast's still humming and everything.
Yeah, the main bulk of my time and energy these days go to creating the podcast daily, because the community wants a resource where they can, you know, have that morning motivation, and we're trying our best to provide high quality content. And so what we realize is when we can do interviews in person, they're always the best. And so our mutual friend Naylor and we went out on tour together and we went interviewing folks, and Blake Albertson, you know, mutual friend of ours, and just a bunch of these guys out in the Midwest. And we had so much fun. And so we're like, we got to just keep doing this. And so I was up in Iowa and Minnesota, and it was snowing and it was cold and it was October. And I said, you know what, for our next tour, we're going to Florida. And so that's where I made that decision when I was like 32 and snowing and cold. And so that's exactly what we did. We're going to Florida next week, and I'm going to be touring the whole state. I'm going to start out on the Gulf of Mexico side and go my way down, work my way back up on the Atlantic Ocean side for about 2 weeks. And I got about 26 episodes we're going to crank out. So the next month of my life is podcasting. And it's really encouraging because guys are listening daily, and you know, the numbers are outrageous. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so we'll just keep cranking out the content if people will listen.
Yeah. And it's exciting, isn't it, to see that kind of, because you can remember when it started, and then all of a sudden you see these numbers keep growing, and you're like, oh, people are listening and they like it and they're sharing it. And it's an exciting thing, especially for a podcast.
Yeah. We were in Kansas City, Naylor and Blake and and we didn't post like on social media, like, hey, we're going to do a meetup or we're going to be at this restaurant where we're nothing. No hints of nothing, you know? And Naylor and Blake and I are sitting there eating dinner, like behind this building. And like, it's like, you almost couldn't even see it. You like see us, you know what I mean? And some guy, Jorge, he drove by in his truck and he looked out the window and he saw us. He got out. Hey, I listen to your podcast. I'm like, what? Like, we're in the back corner of an alley eating barbecue and you know, running into listeners. And so it's bizarre. And there's all kind of stories like that. And so what happens when you meet a Jorge, that's really his name, Jorge, because there's a long story behind that because I thought his name was George, but apparently it's Jorge. But anyway, when you meet someone and you're like, you listen to my podcast?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because when you're making the podcast, I have a producer, Mr. Producer. It's just the two of us. And you don't realize, yeah, there's guys in Australia and New Zealand and Europe and Canada and all across America. They're listening to you every single day. The stats say that, but you don't actually, it doesn't actually connect until you're in the back alley and someone's like, hey, I know you. I listen to your podcast. Then that gives you motivation to keep going for sure.
Yeah. I recently went down to Georgia and then stopped by one of our sponsors places at Stencil Plus in South Carolina. And when I was in Nashville, I stopped at a winery where I stop at to get a box of wine for my friend and I. And I no longer got out of the truck. And somebody said, Marvin, Wisco, Blacktop Banter. Yeah. Dude, I listen to your stuff. And I was like, wow. All right. And it was a young guy with his family. You know, it was the kid, like his mom and dad were there. And I was like, all right. And he's like, just keep it up, and just kept walking. And I was like, this is bizarre. And I was like filming. Luckily, I got out of the truck and was just filming where I was. Well, that pretty much ruined like the video that I was going to make, but it saved to salvage that one. And I sent it to my wife, a few people. I'm like, this is getting bizarre, man. And then when I posted where I was, of course, I'm sure you run into this. People are like, hey, you're right by me. Hey, you're right by me. Hey, you're right by me. And it's like, all right.
Yeah. Now we actually are publicly doing a meetup in Florida on February 12th at Armature Works Park in Tampa Bay at 3:00 p.m. So we're telling people when we're going to try to, pack it out. So hopefully it don't flop. That would be embarrassing if you do a meetup and no one shows up, right? No. So come to our meetup. I think guys are going to turn up. So
yeah, I think you'll be fine, man. So very cool, man. Well, that's all right. I got what's next. Real quick, I want to do a fun question with you. All right. Okay. It's random. It's out of the deck. So here we go, bud. I don't know what it's gonna be. This is interesting. This throws a kink into it. And they're not, they're usually pretty fun questions. I think. So
you pre-made, you have a deck of cards there. You have questions on the cards?
They are, yep, they're on here.
Pod cards, and you just randomly pick one?
It is. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I always thought this would be a good flavor. This is my second season for the podcast, so I wanted to spice it up a little bit. I forget to ask like interesting, fun questions. It's always business, and by the book. So here comes one. All right. This one's not bad. This is a good one, Paul. Ready?
Yeah.
Who would you most like to sit next to on a 10-hour flight, and why?
That's easy. There's a girl that I like, so I want to her, for the 10 hours, no problem.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to tell you all her name, but
all right,
yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's easy peasy.
Cool, man. Cool. What if it was not the girl?
Not the girl. I would say probably my buddy Brian Fullerton. He's so smart at just all the businesses that he runs. We were chatting for like 2 or 3 hours on over the weekend about he wants to write a book. So I was like, okay, I'll help you. You have no idea what you're getting into, but I'll help you. I'll guide you. And but anyway, he's just got so much wisdom about building businesses and things of that nature. So I'd like to learn more and more from him.
Yeah, you're not going to get bored. I think I spent an hour on the phone with him a couple weeks ago, and we literally said you have to end the call because we could go on forever. And it's like, all right, well, we'll meet up and talk about something some other time. So very good choice. All right. Before we get to my side of it, where can people find you on social? We already did the greenindustrypodcast.com. That's a big one.
Yeah. And I have an Instagram account that I post on every single day. It's at Green Industry Podcast. The handle is at Green Industry Podcast. And it's mainly business material there, but I'll post some behind the scenes. And, I try to post on the stories there daily, and I really stick with that. So at greenindustrypodcast.com is where you'll get all of our materials. We got all kind of resources. And, of course, the new book, Cut That Grass and Make That Cash. And we have our most popular products, the rate increase letter. That's what you send out to your lawn and landscape customers to let them know that this year you're raising your rates. I hope you're not charging the same you were charging last year because inflation went up 3 to 4%. So we crafted a simple, straightforward letter just to let our customers know it's what I made years ago that have sent out. And then guys are like, hey, can you help me do this? So I started, making the letter available, and guys are like, dude, this thing works,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Send
Gonna
it out,
they're gonna start sending
raise your rates.
they're gonna start sending out 2 or 3 of them in one season, man. If they work,
Well, Matt LaMarche, let's smash it. He pulls that off. I'm one and done. But my Mr. Producer, my producer got a hold of the letter, and now he's hitting me up for with my own raising my rates using my own rating criticizers. You got to be careful who gets a hold of that thing because it's wildly successful.
Very cool. Well, I'm gonna close my side, and then you can open up to me. So
Okay.
on mine, we always say for the sign off, we want you to seal it, pave it, stripe it, and kill it. Peace. All right, now your turn. Send it.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna wait 5 seconds here so my producer knows where to cut in and put the commercials.
You're good.
All right, friends, I want to flip the script a little bit. We had Marv had me on his podcast and shared, a little bit of how we met years ago, actually on social media. Just we would talk back and forth, and then we'd actually only see each other once a year in October at the GIE Plus Expo. So, we get to catch up and things of that nature. But I want you to share, because you have your foot in the lawn and landscape culture and climate, and you know how the business works. You're part of the Echo UAG program, but your bread and butter is the pavers, and the your business is actually Wiscoat. So tell us what you've learned over the years of building this pavement business.
Yeah. So at I always remember going to GIE, and I always joke with our friend Naylor that I was going to wear a shirt that says "I don't belong here," and I was going to wear it everywhere, to the rally, to the GIE, and everything. So I started an asphalt maintenance business right fresh out of high school. I think I might have been 19 or 20, and I did that. It became somewhat successful enough to where you paid your bills and did everything, but I got to a point to where I realized I'd hit my goal without realizing I'd set that goal in my brain, and I came to a roadblock. And I thought, if this is all I do is go out and make pavement black and come home, I'm going to run out of enthusiasm pretty quick. Somehow I said, well, maybe I'll get into, some more business. So I was looking up lawn care or looking up snow plowing, and I clicked a video, and it was a guy named Dirt Monkey. And along the right side of the suggested videos was another video, a young kid, 17 years old, tons of Instagram subscribers. I clicked that one, and that became where I met, or seen first, our mutual friend Blake, and
B&B Lawn Care.
B&B Lawn Care. Yep. And I was like, well, all these guys go to this conference, I'm going to go. So I went down to the conference. By that time, I know it was probably June when I found the videos. So I had a few months to find the videos, get learning about different things. And I started applying stuff I was learning in the videos to my business in the asphalt side. And it was starting to show some success. So then I started actually just DMing people that I knew from YouTube. I was like, all right, I'm going to ask this question, ask that question. And it wasn't nothing, crazy, but it was simple stuff. And that's how I got started. I came to GIE the first time. I walked up to Keith Kalfas, asked him a really serious question. It was at the meetup in the parking lot, where we all take our picture every year. And it was the very first time I've been there. And, he asked me why I asked that question. I said, well, I was dealt a raw deal. I've worked my way to here, and I want to keep going. And that's how I started. And pretty soon the business started to take flight. I really learned a lot about social media from the lawn care and landscape industry. And I started applying that to my business right away. Facebook, mainly Facebook. I live in a rural area. So with Facebook, I was able to get in front of the faces of these people that are in the rural area that have taken to Facebook. And that's when it started, man. And then pretty soon everything started steamrolling. I started using YouTube. People started following on YouTube, sharing my videos. And then I created a community in the asphalt industry out of nothing. And now it's grown pretty good. We got
That's wild. So you watched what we're doing, the Lawn Bros and the community that we have, and then you basically pioneered that in the asphalt and started your own community with other asphalt bros that are like, oh, there's another guy out there that gets what I'm going through, basically.
Yeah. And I started a Facebook group called US Seal Coaters, which I'm not in charge of anymore. But in the first year, I was lucky to find 400 people to enter the group. And we got there at the very first NPE, which is the National Pavement Expo, which is similar to GIE. And by the second year, we were at 2,800. It went kaboom. And I was sharing my videos, sharing all kinds of stuff in there. Guys were talking about, how to improve your practices and things like that. Pretty soon we started to see people that we realized were quality contractors that people started to follow. And now, there's more than probably 10 groups, there's probably 20 or 30 asphalt industry groups. Paving, seal coating, line striping is its own industry in its own self, which is handicap logos and line striping, no parking, stuff like that. But it's all encompassing in this industry. And pretty soon it got to where we were at these events together, people from the groups meeting together, similar to what happened with the lawn care and landscape industry. And I really just mimicked everything that I had learned from my mentors, our mentors, essentially, the guys that had pioneered it in our industry. And I just replicated that in our industry, and it really took off, and it's become a great, valuable resource. The community of the asphalt and asphalt maintenance industry has become a great resource for contractors statewide, worldwide now.
Awesome. Well, Marv, I always like to kind of conclude my show with the best story you got. So what it can be about life, it can be about your building your business. You got a lot of years under your belt and a lot of experience. What's the best story where you're just like, you're sitting around the campfire and you're like, oh, I remember when that happened.
Well, we'll go with two because there's
okay. Two's good. Two's good.
All right, we'll do with one on the business side. I had really wanted to get a big job, land a big contract, 5 figures, really decent. We recently did one. We'd had 5-figure contracts recently, but this was one that was up high. And I'd always shot for a 6-figure contract. And that was kind of like the motherland, for an asphalt maintenance company, that's a big one. And I remember putting an estimate together here, last year or the year before. And I applied everything I could remember, everything I'd learned from the lawn care and landscape industry, the asphalt maintenance industry, the expos that I teach at, my mentors, the guys that came before me, and I put it all together and put it in a nice package and really went all out, took drone shots, put that in there, sent this estimate in thinking, I'm going to be competing with some big companies. And I was. Set it out, presented myself through things I had learned through our industry, whether it was the podcast or our mentors, and waited. And after a week, I was just laying in bed one night. It was about 9 o'clock. The general manager of the property of the company that we had proposed it for sent me the message and said, "We're going with you." And
Oh, wow.
dude, I don't know how to explain the euphoria. I was very, very excited. And then I was very, very scared. At the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So
6 figures?
six
job?
Yeah, 6-figure job. Yeah. So it's very exciting, and it's easy with different parts to get.
Now, have you completed the job? How did it go?
We did. Everything went great.
Okay. So what was the payment plan? Did they give you a third, 50-50, more increments than that? How do you collect $100,000 or dollars plus?
Yeah, it was 50
job like that.
Yeah, it was 50-50. So we always put that in our contracts. Anything over $10,000 is 50-50. So they knew that right away. They gave us half of it up front. We completed the project. Project didn't take that long, and within a week we had it. We did have a 30-day net, but we offered a bonus if they paid promptly within 10 days, and they did. So it really worked out good for us on that end. And
approximately what profit margin did you hit when it was all said and done on a job?
Sure. So with something like that, with us on our end, we did a removal of pavement, insulation, pavement insulation. So we hired a subcontractor to pave. We took care of a little bit of asphalt maintenance, and then we did line striping on the entire thing too as well. So
it was like a big parking lot, or?
It was, yeah, it was a big parking lot. Yep. And what ended up happening is you get different margins on different sections of it, but ballpark figure, if you can make 20% on a project like that, you're very happy. And that's where we were. About ballpark on that was 20,000. It took, if you figure $100,000 project, you're going to get 20%. That's 20,000
profit. Yeah.
Yeah. And we crushed that in probably a week. Granted, we do have a time window here for usually about 5 months, but if it rains for a month or 2 months, it gets crunched in really tight. It allows our margins to be a little bit higher than they are in the South. just because you have to get it squeezed in that amount of time. There's an urgency to what we do here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, congratulations. And what's the second story?
Yeah, so we just won. When I first went to the first National Paving Expo, they have awards there that go to contractors. And I remember a seal coating contractor getting the best marketing video award. And I thought, that guy looks like me. His business is like me. The rest of them were multi-million dollar businesses, great businesses in the industry, staples that have been around for a long time. This year, we won one of those awards. We won the Best of the Web award for from the National, well, it was the National Pavement Expo, but it's Pavement Maintenance and Magazine, which is pavement maintenance and reconstruction. And we were awarded that. It was voted on by our community, by our industry peers and everything as well. And we were against some stiff competition, and that bad boy's in the office just sitting, hanging out. I looked at it a little bit. So it's a good base for us, and we're excited for the future because I feel like this is just the start for myself, my business, the podcast, and our community too. I think we're going in a good direction, Paul.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you getting the book, Marv. That means a lot to see your support in the Amazon review. I really appreciate that. And tell our audience how they can follow you on Instagram or connect with your podcast, YouTube. You're all over the place. How can the Green Industry Podcast gang follow Marv from Wisconsin?
Yeah, no worries. So I myself, being part of the UAG, you can find me on the EMB website, of course. Echo means business. And then I'm going to be posting stuff there that's solely for the EMB. And then you can find me on Instagram at Blacktop Banter. And on my bio, you can find the other links to my personal page, business pages, everything like that. And of course, Blacktop Banter is available on anywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, Apple, wherever. So check me out there. You can feel free to DM me. I respond to everybody, man. So I like to communicate.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your friendship over the years, Marv, and definitely very thankful. You know, I'm not everybody gets my book. And, you know, that's my friend, you know, like even in my family, it's like I was talking to my brother, he's in college. I was like, you got my book, right? He's like, well, you know, I'm in college, Paul. Things are tight. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, come on, man, you're my brother. Like you won't get me. Oh, I got a girlfriend. And I was like, and I called my cousin. I'm like, hey man, did you get my book? Well, you can tell when someone didn't. And they're like, well, you know, things have been busy. And I'm like, I say it tongue in cheek, but it was hurtful, you know, to have close family and friends not get my book. And it's like, you have no idea. I would wake up, I have a pot of coffee, I'd turn it on, I'd sit at my table and I'd write. And the next thing you know, the sun's going down and the moon's coming out. And I spent all day working on my book, day in and day out. And then it's like, people don't realize how much time and energy I poured into this thing. And so for a friend like you, because we hadn't talked for a few months, and then next thing you know, I'm watching Instagram and Marv from Wisco's like, hey, I just got Paul's book. And I didn't ask you. I didn't beg you. I didn't say nothing. You just, as a friend, you went out, you supported, you got the book. And then I never asked you to leave an Amazon review. And I'm assuming that was you because it was a nickname, but I was like, that's probably Marv. And so I just want to say thank you. Things like that is like, man, that you're a good guy, you're a good friend, and just that support, even though you're in paver land, the book's about lawn and landscaping. I just appreciate you supporting me, supporting what we're doing. So I tell my audience to go and support you, give it forward. So,
dude, I like it. And
thank you, my friend.
Dude, no worries. It's a rare opportunity that you get to read a book that you were there for. So
what they don't understand is my business. You were a part of my business before it got good, like before it blew up. You were a part when I was like crying and like, guys, my customer fired me, and I'm like, what was me? And you guys are like, all right, picking me up and like, Paul, you got this, bro.
Yeah, we asked some serious questions in that, in our group that Naylor put together. We asked some serious questions. And I remember you and I on Snapchat together because we were the small pups in that thing, it felt like. I remember you and I having a separate conversation and you being like, dude, can you believe the people that we're in this group with? Like, we're going to do stuff. And I was like, dude, I can't wait. So it was very exciting and it's very cool to be part of it, dude. And I do follow along. We just get so busy, and I knew that you've been busy and I hadn't heard from you. I'm like, he's got to be up to something. And then when I seen the book drop, dude, I was super excited for you. And we'll have it around forever, man, for sure.
Cool. Well, hopefully you'll write yours one day, and I'd love to help you figure out how to do that.
Dude, I like it. That's going to happen at some point here. We got a little bit left to get under my belt, I think, before we do it, but I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again to today's show sponsor, the Hardscape Academy, our good friend, Caleb and Brittany Allman, mutual friend of ours,
Yes, sir.
and to the debt-free landscaper, Michael Waddell, and to Gulf Coast Bookkeeping, who we use for our bookkeeping services. And of course, guys, you've heard Marv talk all about the book, but you can pick it up at greenindustrypodcast.com. It's the new book, Cut That Grass and Make That Cash. All right, we'll kick it over to the best producer in the biz, Mr. Producer, to button things up, and we'll be back tomorrow for our Florida tour preview show. Bingo.